Alright, what is up guys? So today in this video, I'm going to go over how to make muscle loss biologically impossible on a cut. So if you haven't seen last video, I do basically the same thing, just reversed. It was on how to make fat storage biologically impossible on a bulk. And that video did pretty well, so I'm going to do another one basically on the same topic, but just flipping it like I said, talking about cutting. So right now we're in mid-January. You know, I don't know how many people are truly starting their cut at this point, but I do want to make this video just to explain some knowledge, some wisdom on fitness, muscle growth, fat loss. You can even build muscle on a cut, which I'll get into. There's a lot of stuff that I'm going to talk about. Maybe you've heard of it, maybe, and I guarantee there's one thing in this video that you've never heard of before. This is more of like, you could say like biohacking type of tips that work with your biology because biologically impossible things to do on a cut. So as you can see in this picture, this is me start of 2025. You know, I was not in good shape. I look pretty ass, if you could say the least. And then this was me in August. So I did start my cut last year around May. So this about an 8 month difference right here. And as you can see, I am way stronger in this picture. Last summer, I did a really good cut. Like I was even building muscle while cutting. I do have another video on that, and I'm going to touch over some of the things that I did in this video. So without further ado, let's dive into the actual slides. So basically the whole point of this video, the whole thing we want to focus on is minimizing muscle protein breakdown. So MPB, that's what I'm going to refer to it as in this video. Basically, the whole thing is just minimizing that so that we can maximize muscle protein synthesis. And the difference of that is muscle gain or muscle loss. So if you have more MPB than MPS, which is muscle protein synthesis, then you are going to lose muscle. So just keep this in the back of your mind. And then also, like I mentioned, you can gain muscle in a deficit if you time things correctly as well. So I'm going to get into those things and how you can basically just do the best cut you can possible. Like this is, if you follow these steps, you're going to have the best cuts possibly, because I've been there too. Like I've done the cuts where I lose muscle, I lose strength. It's frustrating because you spend months, if not years, building that muscle and strength, and just for it to go away when you try to get lean, that's not the point. So whole point is to do a cut properly. You know, you're just focusing on losing body fat, not losing strength, not losing size, and you can actually build it as well. So let's get into it. First thing first. So mechanical tension must stay high. I put this number one. This, you probably heard of this, but it is the most important. You cannot neglect this at all. To preserve muscle, you have to have, tension and stress on the muscle, like actually give it the stimulus to stay. So like you have to give it a reason to stay. So for most people, I recommend the 6 to 8 rep range for most lifts. You know, there are some different exercises that you can go a little higher in this. And like I said in the last video, that's why custom plans are way better than just like following generic advice online, because you can actually know exactly what it is for you, tailored to your body, your schedule, everything like that. Basically, you want to do 6 to 8 rep range for most exercises and then hit failure for maximum tension and stimulus. So I'm always training to failure. I don't really believe in reps in reserve. I think I've never really done that in my life. I think it's just kind of dumb. Like, why would you know, leave reps in the tank when you can do more and get more stimulus just because you're going to do higher volume, which is, it's a whole different rabbit hole that you can get into in the gym and in fitness, is like higher volume and then like leaving some reps in reserve. I've never believed in that stuff. So if you are doing, high volume, definitely reduce it, if needed. If you're doing higher volume on a cut, if you're like, in an energy deficit, then you're going to want to reduce the volume. So you can just focus on the highest stimulus, but don't have to do so many of the same things that's just going to fatigue you more than stimulate growth and mechanical tension. So strength should at least maintain on a cut, if not go up. And I'm going to get into how to actually build strength in a little bit as well. So let's go next slide. So using time carbs correctly. This is similar to the last video. And if you haven't watched the last video on the bulking guide, how to make fat storage biologically impossible on a bulk, I would definitely go watch that video and still implement all of those things that I talk about in that video, like the timing of carbs and fats and fructose, all those things, you should still implement those on a cut. Like those are very universal, generic, I wouldn't say generic, but definitely like baseline things you want to follow. Doesn't matter if you're eating more calories or not, you should always be following those rules. And basically, the timing of carbs is what's going to allow you to build muscle on a cut in a deficit. So carbs, you should look at them as a tool for your training. So basically, what carbs do is they spike your insulin, which when insulin is high, it's going to prevent muscle breakdown through blocking muscle protein breakdown. That's literally what it does. If your insulin is high, you cannot use the amino acids, the muscle in your body to fuel your workouts. So that means like eat carbs for your workouts pre and post workout. So pre-workout carbs, this is to prevent muscle breakdown, and then post-workout carbs is to spike insulin again, and then you're basically shuttling all those nutrients to the muscles when there's demand there. So like right after you lift, your muscles are way more sensitive to everything that's coming in, and if you can have your insulin spikes at that time, then you can just shuttle everything to the muscle when it's most sensitive. And basically, if you have the majority of your calories in that window, then you're going to create a local calorie surplus just for the muscle growth in that specific time, but then an overall calorie deficit during the day, which is going to allow you to lose the fat and then keep the strength up and even gain strength if you do it correctly. So this can also create, like I just said, a local calorie surplus for a muscle. So basically the simple rule here is just to use carbs as demand needs. So what that means is basically for a workout, so if you're gonna go lift, have some carbs pre and post. And then if you're gonna, do a zone 2 cardio run, which is what I recommend you'll get into in this video. I recommend doing zone 2 running or any type of zone 2 cardio. Then you can use carbs to spike insulin just to make sure that you're not breaking down muscle when there is demand. So this one is pretty simple. Just use carbs correctly and you will be good. Number 3 is adding cardio before you crash your calories. So this is a big mistake a lot of people make, and I know this one guy that goes to my gym. I've been friends with him for a while, and he's always in the gym like telling me about how he's eating like the smallest amount of calories, but he doesn't do any sort of cardio. And I think that's the worst thing because if you crash your calories, if you're, let's say you're eating, for example, just just to keep it simple, you're eating 3,000 calories at baseline, and then you want to crash your calories to under 2,000 to lose weight and, try to do a cut, then it's just not going to work because you're in such a deficit of energy and like you're not feeding your body what it needs to be fed to preserve that muscle and have everything the way it needs to be. So if you can add cardio before you crash your calories, before you even lower it, then that's definitely the superior option because you're keeping the calories and nutrients the same. You're just adding something on top of that to create that energy expenditure deficit. So you're not really starving yourself. You're not starving your muscles. You're not starving any part of your body. You're just using those calories that you're already eating and expending them as energy through cardio. So basically lowering cardio or lowering calories and staying sedentary is guaranteed muscle protein breakdown. So basically, like I said, if you're just crashing calories and you're not, you know, increasing your movement, your cardio, then that's just going to be a guaranteed recipe to guarantee muscle protein breakdown. So we always want to keep calories as high as possible. So increase expenditure first, always. This is what I just said. And then what I recommend for this is doing zone 2 cardio. So that's basically what this is 60 to 70% of your maximum heart rate. This is very low intensity, very easy to do. And a little bit of the benefits from this is going to be higher insulin sensitivity. So if you've watched the last video, you know how important that really is. A mitochondria boost. So basically you have more volume of mitochondria, and then the quality of those is going to be way higher as well, just because you're having more energy, and then through zone 2 cardio, if you're doing this consistently, you're creating more mitochondria, and those mitochondria are going to be better at burning fats, giving you more energy for your workouts and just everyday life. So it's very good for quality of life as well. And then angiogenesis, this is a little bit of an unheard of cheat code, is basically become more vascular. You're growing new blood vessels through the blood vessels you already have through doing zone 2 cardio. So there's a lot of more benefits that go into this kind of outside of the scope of this video. I'm just more talking about, like keeping muscle on a cut, but zone 2 is by far hands down the best thing that you can do. Like last summer when I was cutting and when I did it was basically like a recomp, like building muscle and losing fat at the same time. That's when I really got into the benefits of zone 2 cardio. I would do this super religiously and I still do. And I guarantee if you start doing the same thing, you're gonna fucking kill the game. Like it's such a unheard of like cheat code really. Like most people think cardio kills gains because they're just not doing it right. They're maybe running all outs or just not feeding themselves correctly for it. But if you do it in zone 2, it's very low intensity, very low effort. You're going to just burn so much more fat than you normally would. So number 3, or no, this is number 4. So number 4 is the calorie deficit size. Basically, cutting too aggressively will guaranteed increase your muscle protein breakdown. So the deficit size that I recommend for most people, this isn't generic for everyone, but for most people, it's going to be a 500 calorie deficit to lose 1 pound of body weight per week. So a little more advanced topic here is you can cycle your calories based on your training. So to create an overall weekly deficit, you can do the same thing. But for example, on training days, you might want more calories to just fuel yourself for that training day. And then on rest days, take it a lot lower to create a bigger deficit. But then overall in the week, you're going to have the same amount of deficit if you were just to do 500 calories every single day. So it's a little more advanced. Like I wouldn't recommend this for everyone, but if you do want to maximize your results, then I would definitely look into this. I definitely like I help my clients do this as well, but it's not for everyone. It just depends on what your goals are and your schedule and everything like that. There's a lot of factors that go into it. This one's pretty simple, so we'll move on to the next one. Number 5 is cortisol control. So basically, high cortisol at the right times will increase your muscle protein breakdown. And I really want to emphasize at the wrong times. So cortisol is supposed to be high in the morning. This is what your circadian rhythm is. So like you wake up, cortisol spikes in the morning. That's why you're alert and you're supposed to be, if you do this right, you're supposed to be alert and awake in the morning. And then during the daytime, it's going to drop. And then at nighttime, it's going to be at its lowest point because when cortisol is lower, your melatonin is going to be higher. So melatonin is the sleep hormone. It's going to rise at night. It's basically the opposite of cortisol. So cortisol basically is like bad for you if it's elevated at the right times or the wrong times. So basically it has a lot of different and your glucose uptake and generation as well. So what you want to avoid is basically just like stressing your body the way it's not supposed to be stressed. Like obviously going to the gym and lifting weights is a stress, but it's not the stress that increases your cortisol. It's actually good for you, like for your hormones as well. So you want to avoid fasted intense training. So basically like going to the gym fasted, I've never recommended this, and I don't think I ever will. I just don't see the benefits of training fasted. So if you're doing really intense training, so if that could be in the gym, like with weights or even with running, like you're fasted and then you're doing like really high intensity cardio, that's really, it's just not going to be good for you. Also, high volume training. So if you're doing a ton of different things in the gym, like a ton of different volume, high volume training, and then also excess high intensity. So basically, like high intensity, but doing more than necessary. So if you're doing high intensity, which is what I recommend and what I teach as well for the people that work with me, then you don't want to do as much volume. You want to bring that down because you're just matching the intensity and you're going to have better results from that. So, really, all you need to know is to just don't stress yourself out as much as you need to. But then cortisol is good in the morning and it lowers during the day and during nighttime as well. So, number six is protein cheat code. So, obviously, when you're in a deficit, you need protein. So I recommend eating a little bit higher than normal just to make sure that you're not breaking down muscle and you're feeding yourself the sufficient amino acids that you need for the muscle that you have. So what I recommend is eating 1 to 1.2 grams per pound of body weight. This is pretty standard. Most people just focus on the 1 pound, but I would even go a little higher, and also protein has a little bit of a thermic effect. So you eat more, if you eat more protein, then you're gonna burn more calories at rest just by thermogenesis. And one of the biggest cheat codes here is to hit the leucine threshold with every meal. So what this means, if you haven't heard of the leucine threshold, is you want to hit 3 grams of leucine, which is about 30 to 40 grams of protein, like high quality protein, every, let's say, like 3 hours. So there's like a 3 hour buffer that you want to hit your leucine with. And if you're not hitting at least these 3 grams of leucine, then you're not going to spike mTOR, which is basically like building muscle, as high as it can. And you're just going to leave gains on the table. So, like, if you're not hitting at least 3 grams of leucine, at least this 30 to 40 grams of protein with every meal, then you're not going to turn on the switch of mTOR correctly, and you're just gonna basically not signal muscle growth and muscle retention as much as you can. So another tip here as well is adding an HMB supplement. This is especially good for cutting. Basically, what HMB is a metabolite from leucine. So basically, you can think of this as like the most potent form of protein that exists, like, at all. So you can add an HMB supplement, take around 3 grams of this per day. I would do this before you go work out to give yourself amino acids during your lift, and it's going to help a lot with muscle protein breakdown. It's not as beneficial when you're bulking, but obviously this video is about cutting, so I definitely add this into your supplement stack, and there's a few different supplements that you should have as well. And then all these, like I said, prevent MPB, especially in a deficit with the HMB. And then last one is sleep. So I do want to touch on this. I know a lot of people talk about sleep. I used to watch a ton of these videos like explaining about fitness and muscle growth and fat loss, and they'd always mention sleep, and I would just overlook this because I thought I knew everything about sleep. But truly, if you have bad sleep, more of your weight loss is going to come from your muscle. You're just going to bias it more towards muscle loss. So if you can perfect your sleep, you're just going to have everything in place to get yourself the best results possible. So sleep improves everything in terms of muscle growth and fat loss, like literally everything. If you don't have good sleep, you just can't get good results. It's that simple. So your testosterone is going to increase, muscle protein synthesis increases, muscle protein breakdown decreases, insulin sensitivity increases, cortisol goes down, human growth hormone goes up, and then your overall recovery, like from what you're doing, like if you're doing high intensity, like I recommend, then you're going to want to have good recovery. And this is going to allow you to just recover the best that you can, because I don't want to keep saying this, but if you have bad sleep, I guarantee you are going to lose muscle on a cut. It's just that simple. So get good sleep, focus on one of the basics, one of the fundamentals, but it's one of the most important, if not the most important, is just it's just the boring getting good sleep. Just do the boring stuff with the sleep and you will get the best results. So really that's the end of this video. Go watch the last video if you haven't, really, really good video. Been one of my best performing, no, it has been my best performing video so far. So I'm going to make more of these, just explaining different unheard of biological principles that you can use. So that's the end of this video. Hope you guys enjoyed. And like always, if you have any questions, the best way to get a hold of me is through Instagram. So I'm going to leave the link in the description so you can message me there. Go follow me. Go check out all my my stories that I post throughout the day because I'm giving like real world examples of what I do to apply all these principles to myself. So go check out my Instagram. And then if you want to work with me directly as well, I'll leave the link to this in the description to schedule a call with me. And then we can just see what that plan would look like for you. But hope you guys enjoyed this, and we'll catch you guys in the next one.